Still setting up, and I'm live. All right, I'm going to sit down here. It's the Nazarite, bringing you Hebrew lore from days of yore. So I have one or two things I wanted to talk about this evening. I'll start with the first one, a comment that Robert, or a question that Robert Harrison asked, and I want to move on to something afterwards, perhaps, but we'll see. Hello, someone who's here. Hi. So Robert asked, and I'll read it from my phone. Robert asked this. Regarding the words of Rav Kook on Passover in the previous video, Robert said this. Around the 24-25 mark of yesterday's video, Rav Kook said about being true to yourself. My question is, are you supposed to be true to yourself or God? Says Robert, I agree with him to a point, but I think be true to God first and foremost, and you will become the person God wants you to be. So, first of all, again, I don't know God. All I know is how God reveals himself to me. And this has to do with it because it's part and parcel of my answer or my response to his question. Now, first of all, the question here, are you supposed to be true to yourself or to God? It first of all directly comes from how do you conceptualize God, if that? And what do you mean by God? And what do you mean by you? Now, in the context of what Rav Kook said, right, about what he said about being true to oneself, I'll read the line again. Said Rav Kook, the character of liberty, or the quality of liberty, is that same high spirit through which the individual and the nation are elevated to be loyal to their inner self, the mental quality of the image of God, which dwells in the individual. And in this quality, it is possible to feel life is of purpose, life that's worth its value. So he says that to be loyal to the inner self and to have what comes out be a manifestation of that divine image to the degree that one can reveal it and embody it, express it, to the degree that you're able to do that and be loyal to your inner self, that is the degree to which that image of God can shine through. And it's nested in truth, and that truth and loyalty to your inner self begets liberty. That is liberty, liberty to go in your own life, in your own path, in the way of God as you see it. He says that there's a slave with a free spirit, and there's somebody who is not enslaved with the spirit of a slave. Like he said, it's not just a question of status or physical things. This idea of liberty and enslavement, it's not merely physical. When you're talking about liberation from Egypt, when you're talking about what is to be loyal to oneself and what it has to do with manifesting divinity in your own unique way. And I'll read what I told him. I said, the people of Israel are meant to keep their covenant and make manifest the image of God, right? In their way, because humankind, right, was made in the image of God. And Israel has their own unique niche there of that which needs to be brought into the world and revealed in creation. So we have the Hebrew covenant that we keep. Being true to your higher and nobler self and being true to God, they are one and the same. Now, far be it from me to say that this is true across the board, because I don't know. I know that with me, that has been what I have felt intuitively. And sometimes, well, let's just say that that's how I felt, that they potentially are one and the same. It's just that I need to orient myself, well, more properly, right? Better. I need to become better. And I told Robert, what is God speaking to you? Like you personally, right? Listen and attempt to manifest. Be channeling divine will. That's how I see it in light of Rav Kook's words. I told him, liberty to serve Yah is the destiny of the Hebrew people. And later on, right, humankind, Eden, that whole trip. But first, in the unique way that Israel manifests it, it's going to appear there. It has appeared there. It will appear there differently. That light of liberty that's shown for the first time there in Passover and has been coming back every so often. So being true to oneself and one's nobler self, higher self, being loyal to that, that is how you manifest the image of God, and that is how you channel divine will, and how you express it. And that is also going in the way of God. That is also being true to God. Or so I think. So I told him I can't speak for other nations, though, and that humankind shall be one at some point. But right now it's fractionated, and I can only speak of my experiences. And I mean, my experiences as a Hebrew man, certainly around the times of Passover. It's for many years now. It's always a trip. And on the eve of Passover, when we're burning the remainder of the chametz and the prayer that we recite there, there's a reason why, because you can get rid of chametz in all kinds of ways, but you burn it. Now, you don't have to burn all of it. You can bury and do it like properly, ecologically, more sustainable and whatnot. You can differentiate, things go into compost. People do all kinds of things to get rid of the chametz, and a small amount ought, I suppose, to be burned. Even if it's just, a couple of slices of bread that you have left over or that you picked up when you were cleaning and checking, keep something to burn. This idea of burning away the ego, this idea of burning away the din, of burning away the fire, the hot, wrathful, vengeful, spiteful, malevolent, and egocentric side of us. That's what's being burned there. That's the chametz that's being burned. And we are entering this holiday of Passover with this idea of being true to our higher self. The matzah is called the bread of poverty, lechem oni. But it's from that poverty of ego and leavened bread and pride that we can find real freedom. Through that humility of the bread of poverty. That bread that doesn't rise up, one that stays very low. So being true to oneself and being true to God potentially can be one and the same. And these are people, I think, who you get to know, or maybe you hear something and it's not always 24/7, but some people you can feel and actually sense something very truthful and loving and genuine, authentic coming from them, channeling their own unique brand of divinity through them. And you can sort of see it manifest when you're like in deep conversation with people. It can happen, and it's wonderful. And that's when something is truly engaging, because it's literally gripping you. And things, if you learn, I think, how to quiet certain areas and open up others and be more receptive and listen and all that. Because I told Robert, what is God saying to you? Right? What is God speaking to you? Many times with me, I've found just take the time daily to listen and to speak, but also to listen. Meaning you can speak, but then look for a response in however it might manifest. So what is God speaking to you? Listen and attempt to manifest it. That way you're not always, that way when you're doing it, when you're engaged in that, you're channeling divine will. And a little bit of light can dispel or take away a lot of darkness. That's what I had to say about truthfulness to self and to God. Now, practically speaking, Torah, commandments, and covenant are here to always be orienting you in the proper path. And our sages and others have so many wonderful and beautiful things to say about the nature of returning to one's covenant, returning to your true, higher, nobler self. Now it takes time. You got to peel off the layers till you get to the core, to quote Björk. But there's something there that is worth pursuing and in earnest, I feel. And things like Passover, they come with spring to remind us that life and blooming, what is it really? What is this life? What is it that is supposed to be blooming here? It's liberty, it's freedom. Freedom from certain things in order to do certain things. And you got to think about what those are, because you got to have to serve somebody. So who is it that you're going to serve? Let's see if there's anything in the chat. If not, I might speak of, hey, little Andre. Hi there. Shalom. And oh, hello, 3 people. So it's almost 10 minutes. I'm torn. So, okay, I'll tell you. Here's what happened. Last night, or yes, yesterday around noon, I was, whenever it was, evening time, I was having something to eat at the table, and I was opening my chumash, right? I had my chumash open, my Torah, and I was reading what I remembered for a moment to be the weekly Torah portion, Achrei Mot, which details the rituals of Yom Kippur, etc., the Holiday of Atonement. But then later on, after I'd recorded a short, which I didn't upload, after I'd recorded the short, I was like, oh, wait a minute, this week's weekend and Shabbos is going to be Passover, so it's going to be bumped off. Hey, Ariel, shalom. Shalom, guys. Watching, I know you will be at my show. Yes, Blink 182, all the small things. I said the band and the song this time, so there is no confusion. So I was looking into Achrei Mot. I'll be looking more into Passover things this week, seeing as how Achrei Mot is not the weekly Torah portion. We'll be reading the Torah portion of the Passover holiday. But I did think of something, and it has to do with the lots that are cast by Aharon, the high priest, at Yom Kippurim, at the Holiday of Atonement, right, the ritual. And it has to do with the nature of the Holiday of Atonement. So there's this very singular thing that happens, which is that lots are mentioned in the Torah. And I don't think they are mentioned again, at least not as such. I might be wrong, but it's a very unique ritual. Everything else, just about, in the temple service is very precise and very, very focused, right down to what the priests are wearing, where they are facing, what they are thinking, what they are saying, how they are holding the knife, the animal, everything, the altar, the whole thing is just very, very, very precise. And then on Yom Kippur, there is this element of determinism, or, I mean, it's randomness, but it's predetermined, something along those lines, where two lots are cast. One says L'Adonai, one says L'Azazel. Right? Two pieces of wood. Later on, they were made of. Were they made of gold? No, Ishkroa. No, maybe they were later made of gold. Either way, they were made of wood. The two goats, one for the sin offering, and one would be released into the desert. Our sages teach, pushed off a cliff, it would die. That would be symbolizing all of the sins and all the transgressions, wrongdoings, and negative vibrations that the people of Israel had accumulated over the year, which had not been atoned for in any other way, shape, or form than in Yom Kippurim. That's when it would be done. And barring that, on the day of the individual's death. But Yom Kippurim would be like this all-encompassing day of forgiveness and renewal. Why is it then that on such a day that's supposed to bring about such transformation, when you would think it's the most dangerous day, where the high priest enters the chamber, right, the holiest of holies, and puts the incense on the kaporet, on the ark, why then would that sort of random element be tossed into the mix of this ritual? Everything else is very precise. And the priest changes clothes several times, and he dunks 10 times, and he, or is it 5 times? Yes, and he washes his hands and feet 10 times throughout the day. It's all the numbers, everything. And yet, with the lots here, there's something sort of random. I'm trying to think of if it's seemingly random, and not only random, but it's outside, right? It is sort of deterministic. If the name, right, it's L'Adonai and L'Azazel. If the name of Adonai was in the left hand, then the second in command, let's say, would say, high priest, my lord, raise your left hand. And if it was in the right, if Adonai would come out on the right, he would say, raise your right hand. So why is it on Yom Kippurim, when everything is indeed so precise, and the high priest goes into that chamber, right, into the innermost sanctum, Kodesh HaKodashim, to place the incense there, to say a quick prayer and get out? Why is this then inserted? And I think, I was thinking, that it has to do with the very nature of what the day represents, which is tshuva, returning, repentance, going back to your true self. And how there are certain things that are out of our control, such as which hand will it be? We don't know. The priest wouldn't know. It says in the Mishnah, taraf bakalpi. It means he just reached in and he took them. He didn't mean to take this one or that one. He just took them. And whatever is. If it's the right hand or if it's the left hand, both of them are fulfilled. It says that I think 70 or 80 years before the destruction of the Second Temple, the name would only come up on the left, which symbolizes Gvura, Din, the left pillar, judgment, withholding, narrowness, anger, limitation. And on other times, it would be the right, which symbolizes giving. It's chesed, right? It's the positive vibration, the right pillar, the right hand, the hand that's always giving, the chamsa, the open hand. It would be seen as a good omen when the lot of Adonai would be on the right. And it would be worrisome when the lot of Adonai was on the left, because that means that something might be out of line, right? There's a disharmony. This is probably the very thing which Yom Kippurim came to atone for, but I digress. This idea of being true to yourself, of returning to yourself, means that you are able to raise yourself above that deterministic and random, chaotic element of the world. You're able to do that by getting in touch with that which transcends this world and nature. I'm not sure if I'm phrasing it properly. The priest takes both lots, and he doesn't know which is which. That has been already determined by God. That's why it's called goral. Goral means lot. Goral is also the name for destiny, if you will. Something which is predetermined, but which you can affect and tweak as you go along. And it's as if the Torah is trying to tell us that within the definite danger of Yom Kippurim, the danger was definitely, a mortal danger for the high priest. If he wasn't worthy, he would die, and many would. With all of the deterministic things, both of those sacrifices, right, are goats. Both of them, right? One of them is chatat, sin offering, and one of them is ladonai. Both of them are killed in very different ways. The devil gets his due, let's say, when that goat is pushed off the cliff, sent away into the desert. And Adonai, let's say, that revelation gets their due with the other goat. And in between those two things, there is that middle pillar, which symbolizes Israel. And that middle pillar goes up, 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 all the way to the top, transcending the very source of left and right. Right up here, before the left hand and the right hand are manifest, you have. I might be getting a little too blah, 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 so let me know. Let's go to the chat, see if there's anything there. Oh, hello there. Okay, so there are a few things here. Got any recipes for homemade matzot? No, just if you want to make matzah, just go for it. You need to have some flour. You need to have it. You need to not have it sit for too long, and then you need to just put it on there and make it, and not put any yeast in it, and not let it sit and saturate for more than a certain amount of time. And there's a difference of opinion on how you would do that. But when you make the dough, right? When you knead it or make it, it needs to be quick, and you need to put it quickly on the fire. Or well, you could make matzah with any. You could make matzah in many different ways. I don't have any homemade recipes. Hit the like button if you love HN. Well, that's sweet of you. Thank you very much. In Robert's absence, everybody give a like now. Oh, so both of you. Oh, so you just said it there. You just said it, and he had shown up, and I don't think he spoke before. Oh, so look at that. So I guess you said it one after the other. There's 5 watching, but 3 likes. That's okay. That's all good. Those who like can like, and those who do not will leave. Thou shalt like, says little Andre. Hebrew King Yoshaya had one of the biggest Passovers in Israel's history. Yes, that's right. After he found after Shaphan ben Yozniyahu, I think it was, found the book, the scroll in the temple. Also, I read today he leaned against a pillar and read Torah in 2 Kings. Today I can leave the exact verse later. Yes, he did. The king reads, which is also why. Well, no, let's continue. Also, some Am Haaretz was in the Tanakh today. What do you mean, some Am Haaretz? Which Am Haaretz are we talking about? Yes, please do indeed, says little Andre. Please do, Robert. Leave that verse. Um, Here's the thing. So I've been talking for 20 minutes. I think I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to keep this short. I can feel a little tired. But I do want to make things right, bring them down into the physical world, right? Down here into actionable, practical things. There's a random and deterministic element to creation. There's danger in it because you never know what's going to happen, but that shouldn't stop you from wanting to return to your truer, nobler, higher self. There is liberty in the pursuit. There's liberty in the attaining of some of that character. And having those lots, it means that there's a random element, right, where seemingly things are predetermined and outside of your sphere of influence and action, but you are higher than that, right? Echad la'Adonai, echad la'Azazel. One goat for Adonai, one goat for Azazel. They both sort of have their thing that is burned at the altar, that is pushed off a cliff, and Am Yisrael get to ascend. And so, not every day is Yom Kippurim, but we have no temple now, and we are called to be that temple ourselves with our minds and bodies and conduct in the world to the best of our ability. Inside all of the danger and determinism, there's also an element of free will that does transcend those constraints or conditions. You need to know when to give the devil his due and how to go about it. And I was reading earlier when I was looking for different things that had to do with it, with the two goats and what the lots represent and why there are two of them. And I won't get into it now. The whole idea of Yom Kippurim is building a temporary bridge, and that's why the priest goes into the holiest of holies, building a temporary channel of communication between a very, very high place represented by the great mother and queen. Or, no, let's just say mother. Not a queen quite yet, not like that. The great mother, the nurturing mother. And in those conditions of Yom Kippurim and the way that it's carried out, Israel are able to get into the holiest of holies, pull something down. To pull something down from that higher place. The priest burns incense, right? It's not like blood, and it's not like, first of all, it rises, basically, and it fills the house. And second, it's sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's, you know what? I'm not going to continue because I'm going to start rambling. I can see how it can be a ramble. I'll read the end of the chat and then I'm going to head off. Thought so, sleep well, Laila Tov to you, Laila Tov to all. We're reading each other's minds. 5 likes now, what do you know? Pressure does make diamonds. Shalom, hey, Torah and friends, how you doing, man? It's John Gishala. Thought I was behind in the stream and you had finished, but it seems you continue. No, I'm going to go now. I wanted to bring it down to something practical. I don't know if I was able to do it. I don't know if what I spoke, if what I said earlier was too coherent because I'm still just thinking about it now. But liberty is worth the pursuit. True liberty is worth the pursuit, and I'll leave it at that. Shi'erak tov, all good things. I will see you on. Will I see you on Friday? I don't know. It's Passover Eve. It's Erev Pesach. I don't know. Maybe for a short, maybe for a live stream. I don't know. Either way, I hope to do something. And maybe tomorrow there will be a short. We will see. Until then, thank you. I hope this was of some value somehow. I feel just that maybe it wasn't the best live stream, but it's something I do need to continue thinking about. Anyway, thanks to those who were here. Robert. Hey, Pixie Face. How you doing? I'll have to read that. I'll have to answer it another time, or give my opinion another time. Um, let's say, and Ariel was here, Robert was here, little Andre was here. Who else? Who else? I think that was it. Yes, and John Gishala John, Reb Gishala. Let's all have a wonderful continuation of this week. I will see you. I appreciate your viewership. I do. Thanks a bunch. See you.